Good morning, all of you. I am Professor Harinarayana from the University of Mysore. I am very happy to take part in this webinar series. At the outset, let me thank the organizers of Karnataka State Akkamahadevi Women's University, Vijayapura, for conducting this unique webinar series. In fact, COVID-19 has changed our lives, and the higher education in India is also undergoing a lot of changes, and we are learning and teaching using the technology. As a teacher, I am also new to this particular venture. I am very happy that Karnataka State Akkamahadevi Women's University, Vijayapura, has come out with this novel idea, and particularly due to the efforts of Professor P.G. Thadaseth, the Registrar Evaluation, and Dr. Gavisiddappa Anandahalli, and Dr. Shanta Devi T. As I said, this is new not only for the students and the participants, but also for a resource person like me. Because of this, there may be some hiccups during the presentation. Please bear with me if there are any. I have been asked to talk about the code of ethics and code of conduct for researchers. Let me start with a disclaimer that I have not prepared any well-structured PPT for the presentation. Whatever I am going to speak will be based on my experience as a teacher, as an academician, as a librarian at universities in India. And also, I have taken a few ideas from the literature, and more importantly, the University of Mysore is coming out with Code of Ethics and Code of Conduct manual for researchers, students, and the non-teaching staff. This was basically prepared by one of our esteemed professors of University of Mysore by name Professor A. Balasubramanian. So my ideas here, which I am going to share with you, are based on these three kinds of resources. So let me start my presentation. I intend to talk on the code of ethics and code of conduct. In fact, People wonder whether they are one and the same or they are different. Let us see. And as I already told you, code of ethics and code of conduct are applicable to all the stakeholders of the universities and colleges. I am presuming that the participants of this seminar constitutes mainly of the employees from the colleges and universities and those who are from academic institutes. And I am also intend to talk about the things that were likely to be included in the Code of Ethics and Code of Conduct manual which we are preparing for the University of Mysore. I am also like to talk about one of the ethical issues, that is self-plagiarism. So I am aware that the resource persons of this particular webinars have already spoken about plagiarism in general, and I thought let me ponder upon some of the issues related to self-plagiarism. As I told you earlier, I have jotted down few things yesterday evening, and I will be discussing them with you. We are always used to face-to-face interaction, and this passive way of delivering lecture is a bit of a challenge for me. Nevertheless, let me try my level best to convey what I want to. Let us try to understand whether the Code of Ethics and Code of Conduct as a phrase are they different or same. The answer for this is both yes and no. When I say yes, both COE and COC are similar as far as their purpose is concerned. Both of them specify the way of behavior of the employees in an institution or an organization. But purists, they make difference between these two terms. According to them, Code of Ethics is aspirational in nature, and it deals with the ethical values, the principles, and the ideals one need to have in mind while working in an organization. And only those which are very essentials are documented. Otherwise also, we as an employee need to follow the general social ethics that is prevailing in our society. And Code of Ethics largely helps in decision making process, and it governs the decision makers in taking decisions. On the other hand, the code of conduct is directional by its nature, and it deals with the specific practices and behaviors that one would expect out of the employees or the staff in that organization. In contrast to COE, COC is action oriented, and it gives the guidelines and governs the actions of an individual. If you want to further distinguish between the code of ethics and code of conduct, in the literature you find many subtle differences between them. According to many authors, the code of ethics has a wider scope than the code of conduct in its operation. The code of ethics is more generic in nature. It is non-specific in its statement and may contain many general statements. What I mean to say is, if the code of ethics is documented, the language that is used in code of ethics will be very general in nature, and the scope will be very huge, very large when compared to the code of conduct. On the other hand, the code of conduct will have clear sets of do's and don'ts. It will have the statements related to the expectations, which indicates what is acceptable to the university, to an organization, to an institution, or to the society. Loosely speaking, the code of ethics encompasses all categories of employees in an institution, whereas the policy statement regarding the code of conduct may be developed for specific categories of people or specific type of operations. This is how we tend to differentiate between code of ethics and code of conduct. But if one looks into the literature available online, you may find that these distinctions are not always maintained properly, and both these phrases are used as synonyms. So in my lecture also, I am not very particular or keen of using these terms as completely different ideas altogether, and I will be talking about both of them together, and many a times they will be overlapping with each other. Let me try to define the code of ethics. I have taken the definition from Investopedia. Let me read out the definition to set the context for this discussion. A code of ethics is a guide of principles designed to help professionals conduct business honestly and with integrity. A code of ethics document may outline the mission and values of the business or organization, how professionals are supposed to approach problems, the ethical principles based on organization's core values, and standards to which professional is held. By and large, code of conduct is also is defined in similar lines. When we talk about code of ethics or code of conduct for that matter, the universities or higher education institutions have to provide an ambience for implementation of these ethics. It is not just the individual's responsibility to follow the ethics, to adhere to the ethics, but also the institutions have to provide an opportunity or the environment or the ecosystem wherein these ethics could be followed with optimal efficiency. In fact, there are various factors that an university system should look into. When I say university, it means college or institution or organizations where you people are working. Because I am working in an university environment, I tend to use the word university more often. Now, it is the responsibility of the universities to come out with a good governance framework, research governance framework in the form of policies and procedures. These policies and procedures should be clear in nature and should be laid out in clear terms. Not only that, the university has the responsibility of training its stakeholders in implementing these policies and procedures developed for maintaining the research ethics in the organization, and providing training and mentoring to enable the researchers to develop their skills and knowledge is also one of the responsibilities of the universities. And the another aspect which is quite often talked about, and the institutions like NAC insist, is we have to ensure the highest standards. And the policy statement should clearly mention about this goal of the university, and it has to be brought to the notice of all the researchers, students, teachers, and others who are working in a university system. It is quite obvious that it is the responsibility of the universities to come out with appropriate infrastructure, particularly for data management, research data management. availability of good infrastructure for research data management is sine qua non if you want to have an academic integrity or research integrity in an organization. Now let us turn our attention towards the responsibility of individuals in adhering the code of ethics developed by the universities. What the university expects out of researchers. So when I say researcher, here the researcher is a student, a researcher, and also a teacher. In the coursework and other situations, he works as a student. When he is doing researcher, he works as a researcher, and also he will be taking a few classes, but particularly at University of Mysore, in our Department of Library and Information Science, all the research, full-time research scholars, they do take classes for MLISC. So these are part and parcel of university's mandate to the researchers. And when we talk about the code of ethics for the researchers, they should also know the code of ethics required for not only students but also for researchers. I have combined both of them here so that the researchers will get a comprehensive view of the code of ethics for students as well as the researchers. The university expects the researcher an excellence in whatever things, particularly the academic outcome from the researchers. And it is the responsibility of the individual researcher to strive very hard to come out with the excellence in all aspects of research. And he or she should aim to produce and disseminate work of highest quality and ethical standards. And one of the things that is expected of a typical research scholar is openness, and one should be honest and open at all the stages of research process, particularly in the data collection, analysis, coming out with interpretation, findings, disseminating the results. In all these things, always it is openness is much appreciated. Yesterday, one of the researchers from other department was asking me, "Sir, is it wrong if I prove an hypothesis wrong?" No, not at all. A hypothesis may be accepted or rejected. So the quality of the research will not come down if many of the hypotheses are proved wrong. Hypotheses are to be tested, and whatever the results that one gets need to be reported as they are. So you don't have to really, you have to be very honest, and you don't have to fear about just because most of the hypotheses are rejected, my thesis is wrong. No, that's not the case anyway. And the researchers are also expected to discuss the results with their peers and academic colleagues, and also share data whenever it is warranted. And openness in the research design, methodology, and findings are expected of research scholars. We have been hearing of late that the researchers, when I say researchers, research scholars and teacher as a researcher. And we have been hearing about academic integrity and research integrity. So we have to demonstrate the integrity and professionalism in our research work. It means that we have to comply with the university policies and also relevant legal, regulatory and ethical requirements and external codes of practice and other appropriate guidelines relevant to the field of study and also which are relevant to the society in which we are living in. There is no doubt that researchers are expected to be accountable in whatever they are doing, and most importantly, the care and respect is a duty for the researchers about the participants and subjects of research, including the animals, human beings, and the environment and cultural objects that we are dealing with. Before taking up the research, the researcher has to address to the problems of the problems or the issues related to the dignity, rights and safety and well-being of those involved in research. So these are the things expected of in researcher as an individual. It is not uncommon to see in many of the institutions one would sign the Code of Conduct declaration. Particularly in the University of Mysore, we do get this signature even for the master's degree students and also from the researchers about the Code of Conduct. And we declare, the student declares that he will abide by the Code of Conduct prescribed by the university and also the changes that might happen from time to time. As far as the behavioral standards are concerned, all the students and the researchers must uphold the academic and research integrity and respects all persons and their rights and property and safety of others, which we have already discussed, and avoid the misconduct within or off campus. So when we are doing research, even otherwise also, we should not do the things which will bring which will defame our institution or which will damage the reputation of the university or the institution. The various misconduct, when I say misconduct, you may ask me a question, what are the misconducts that are normally considered as misconducts by the university or organization. So I have jotted down 1 or 2 points here just for the sake of formality. So any act of discrimination, physical or verbal, based on individuals' gender, caste, race, religion or religious beliefs, color, region, language, disability, sexual orientation, marital or family status, physical or mental disability, gender identity, etc., will be conducted as misconduct. And intentionally damaging or destroying the university or college's property and the property of the students or faculty members will also be construed as an act of misconduct by the university or the institutions where one is working, or any disruptive activity in the classroom or an event with the intention of disturbing the process is also considered as a misconduct. So, as a researcher, one should not indulge himself or herself in such type of misconducts, and they should also not indulge in unlawful activities when you are there in the campus. Say for example, you are not permitted as a research scholar to organize the meeting within the organization without the specific and written permission from the concerned authorities. And also, researchers are not supposed to accept the membership of religious or terrorist groups banned by the government of India or the respective state governments or the university. And unauthorized possession of any weapon, ammunition, explosive and potential weapons, firework, etc. is also and those things which are contrary to law or policy is also considered as unlawful activities. And unauthorized possession or use of harmful chemicals and banned drugs is to be avoided, and smoking on the campus and in public places are not allowed, and possessing, consuming, disturbing and selling of alcohol in the campus and or throwing the empty bottles in the campus is also considered as unlawful activity. And as a researcher, you are not expected to interact with the media representatives or invade the media into the campus without the specific permission from the authorities concerned. And researchers do have the moral obligations for not making the audio or video clipping of any activity without the permission of the concerned authorities. And social media has its tentacles everywhere. You and I have to participate in the social media, but we have to be very responsible and very careful in expressing our ideas. And particularly when you are a researcher, you are bound to follow these rules. And in Western countries, there are severe punishments for misconduct and or for not following the code of ethics or code of conduct. So in Indian universities also slowly these are coming up, and I'm sure in the near future most of these universities, some of them have already been some of these have already been included, but some of them will be implemented very soon. and UGC and the national organizations like NAC are insisting on these things. The student, the punishment regarding the non-adherence to the code of ethics and code of conducts varies from warning to restrictions to community service. You may be asked to do a particular service for misbehaving, and one may be excluded from certain activities if he or she found to misbehave or misconduct, and monetary penalty may also be levied upon, and as a last resort the person may be suspended from the universities, and also legal action may be initiated against such persons. This being the case, one need to be very careful as far as adhering to the code of conduct. I have listed here some of the points which the University of Mysore is likely to add in its document on code of ethics and code of conduct. The document will have the issues like this is basically prepared for students and researchers, and this document will help them to realize their responsibilities and also the behavior that is expected from the University of Mysore. And the university's life, particularly for PG students, will be new, but for the researchers also, they will the university life will be somewhat different than what they see outside. So the very goal of university's life for researchers or students is to acquire the knowledge and also practical skills. So this should not be forgotten. This is the main goal of being in an university environment. And the university life includes going to the classes, library or laboratories, and participating in the core curricular activities, and also having some fun occasionally. And you may agree with me that university's life will be normally considered as memorable days in one's life. So we need to cherish, we need to enjoy. At the same time, we should not forget for what for we have entered the gamut of university, and we have to be proactive in our learning, and because when you enter into PhD or MPhil, self-learning takes over, and you have to learn on your own. The teacher-assisted learning has to or becomes very less and less. So you have to really come out with your own ideas to pick up the things and pick up the things quite fast, and keep yourself engaged. It is not just always reading, writing and hitting books. So research means you have to engage yourselves with your peers, teachers, juniors and people from all walks of life, and indulge yourself in academic discussion with as many people as you can. and you try to come out of the comfort zone and try to face the challenges in life. If you are always in the comfort zone, you will not experience the new things in life. So come out of that. And these are the aspects that we are going to include in the code of ethics and code of conduct at the University of Mysore. Social learning is another skill that as a researcher you need to pick up, and you have to create your own groups and discuss with them. And nowadays the social media have come out very handy for us, and it's a boon really, and you can definitely use those media very positively and for your benefit. It is not just you follow these things, you encourage others to exchange information, and also you also share the information with them. All these things form what I call social learning. And as far as possible, try to participate in the social and group activities conducted by the department or universities. And in doing so, never forget, never lose the focus on your learning. So students normally often lose track of their goals in the enthusiasm of doing many things at the campus, and always acknowledge the borrowed contribution, and also verbatim representation of ideas from other works need to be enclosed in quotation marks and so on and so forth. You know about all these things, so I will go to the next point. And you are also expected to acquire what normally called 21st century skills. They include the collaboration and teamwork, creativity and imagination, critical thinking, problem solving abilities, flexibility, adaptability, and so on and so forth. Technology literacy is a must, etc. And you have to maintain the physical and mental health. So the basic principle is termed as DREAM, DREAM, that one need to follow to maintain the physical and mental health. D stands for diet, R stands for relaxation, E stands for exercise, A stands for attitude, and M stands for motivation. So these principle of DREAM you have to follow in order to maintain your physical and mental health. And space your time properly. This is one area where the researchers find themselves in problems many times. As a researchers, you have to go through the coursework which approximately takes 6 months, and a review of literature you may have to conduct 4 to 6 months, and you have to prepare the methodology or the research design, which may require 3 to 5 months at least, in my opinion. And you have to prepare the synopsis or the research proposal. And when you are ready with the literature review and methodology, writing of a report itself will take 2 months, and collecting the data according to the methodology that we have fixed or doing the experiment may take 6 months to 1 year, and analysis of data might take 6 to 8 months, and thesis writing 6 to 8 months. Some of these things can be done parallelly also. By any standard, if you take completing a research project leading to PhD work, PhD requires approximately 3 to 4 years if you manage your time properly. Otherwise, you will end up with extending your research period. The code of ethics for researchers also include respect for self and respect for others, and also we have already discussed about that. When we say respect for others, you have to respect the fellow researchers, the authorities, your supervisors, the other teachers, students, and public who come in contact with you during your research tenure. And protect the property of the universities in the department, in the library, in the laboratory, and in the place of the in all places of within the university. And never involve in any academic misconduct or take part in prevent, and also you should assure that you have to prevent others from misconducting. So misconduct here may also include cheating, examination, plagiarism, ragging. Ragging is unacceptable at all, which you may be knowing it, and ragging is a menace and also is a crime, and you may be aware that severe punishment is accorded if one finds to involve or indulge in ragging activities. And we have to be very sensitive, and we should not indulge in the sexual harassment. When we talk about the sexual harassment, even the comments that one would pass, the remarks, the dual meaning jokes, the letters, phone calls, emails, chats, gestures, or showing of the pornography clipping, lurid stares, physical contact, molestations, stalking, sounds or display of derogatory nature, and there are many other things also. These should be completely avoided. We are from a cultural society, so we have to show that we are really from a good family background, and we should not indulge in all these activities. Now let us talk on the self-plagiarism as an academic misconduct. Because we are talking about the code of conduct, self-plagiarism is also considered as a misconduct. Many people think that because self-plagiarism is okay, but self-plagiarism is not a misconduct. But in the strict sense of the term, self-plagiarism is also a misconduct. That is the reason why I have taken up this particular topic. In fact, scientific writing you have to involve as a researcher. You will be writing synopsis, you will be writing the proposals, you will be writing the articles, you will be writing theses and conference papers, and so on and so forth. And writing or the scientific writing is really cognitively demanding work, and it requires the accuracy, it requires the transparency, it requires the clarity of thought, and also conciseness and honesty. But the modern scientific research work takes place in all sorts of constraints and competing pressures. We have to do the things. We have to come out with 2 articles in peer-reviewed journals. We have to come out with a thesis of sizable volume within 3 to 4 months, etc. So these are with these, what happens is many a times some of these characteristics, if not all, are compromised, leading to loss of research integrity. Only the solution is if you plan your activity, you don't have to worry about this. And when we talk about research integrity, I mean it is not involving in the research misconduct. In fact, research integrity, we are talking about this off late. You may ask me whether it was not there earlier. It was there even earlier also. It is a long practiced belief system, and self-policing was there. But now we are coming out, the higher education institutions are coming out with explicitly stated research integrity policy. It is not that it was not there earlier. The research integrity may be defined as active adherence to the ethical principles and the professional standards essential for practice of research. In fact, the US federal definition of misconduct is as follows. It is fabrication, falsification, or plagiarism in proposing, performing, or reviewing research, or in reporting research results. Fabrication here means making up of the data or results and recording and reporting them. So some people do this. They come out with artificially created data to suit their hypothesis. It is wrong, in fact, and it is a blunder and it is a sin. One should not do that. And falsification is manipulating the research materials, equipment, and processes so that it gives us the results that we expect. So that should not be there. And plagiarism is the appropriation or taking of the others' ideas and processes and results and claiming it to be ours. This is what plagiarism is all about. And for the want of time, let me skip this particular slide. I will not. I'm going to deal with this in detail, but we can note that 3% of misconduct is reported everywhere, and if you take really the plagiarism as a misconduct, serious misconduct, the percentage would be very, very high. But the other types of misconduct, it is 3%, and the institutions, higher education institutions, are moving towards zero tolerance principle as far as the research misconduct is concerned. And for the sake of formality, I have given you some definition of what exactly is ethical writing or the correct writing. What do we mean by ethical writing. Ethical writing is clear, accurate, fair, and honest. This is the simplest definition given by Colin in 2015. And Roig has given a more comprehensive and more appealing definition for ethical writing. It says a general principle underlying ethical writing is the notion that the written work of an author represents an implicit contract between the author and the reader. Here I have highlighted the words implicit contact. When one reads our article, there is a kind of an informal contract between we as an author and the readers. So we are not supposed to cheat them by any way. That's what the principle of ethical writing talks about. So how to adhere to the ethical writing standards? It is quite simple, but only thing is we have to make sure that we follow these things. Always acknowledge the borrowed contribution, and if you take a piece of text verbatim, then put them in quotation mark, and even if you use paraphrasing, if the idea belongs to others, cite them, and don't try to don't forget to acknowledge them. And while paraphrasing, make sure that it doesn't lose the idea, the original idea of the author, and you don't have to cite the common knowledge. For example, India got independence in 1947. This need not be cited. So these kinds of, or there are 5 laws of library science. So the statement there are 5 laws of library science need not be quoted, but the actual, if you are actually stating the 5 laws, you have to quote the Ranganathan's book. And avoid fragmenting of results into many papers when it can be cohesively published as one, and when the fragmentation is absolutely warranted, the other parts should be properly cited, or others should enclose full data to editors. In fact, the last point comes to the gamut of self-plagiarism. I will be dealing with it within next 5 minutes. I will be closing my lecture. So let me not define the plagiarism, but what we have to say is we have to concentrate on the self-plagiarism. Many people think that self-plagiarism, the phrase itself is an oxymoron. Oxymoron means two words, two opposite words come together to form a phrase or a word. Say, for example, act naturally is an oxymoron, because when you say act, it cannot be natural. But we tend to use the phrase act naturally, original copy, or bittersweet, etc., etc. These are some of the examples for oxymoron. Similarly, self-plagiarism is an oxymoron, is the question that people normally ask, because plagiarism means theft. So you cannot steal your own ideas. How is it possible? So self-plagiarism, and that's how people say that it is a oxymoron. Okay, let us try to understand the distinction between the plagiarism and self-plagiarism. People say that self-plagiarism is not part of plagiarism at all. Particularly, if you think that plagiarism is appropriation of something from others and claim to be ours, from this perspective, self-plagiarism is not a part of plagiarism at all. But plagiarism, if you think plagiarism as lifting of ideas without following ethical standards of acknowledging the original source, then if you adopt this definition, definitely self-plagiarism is a part of plagiarism. And both plagiarism and self-plagiarism, they by intention, they are the activities of deceit. So we should not involve in either of them. Let me concentrate only on self-plagiarism. And the word self-plagiarism was first used in 1994 by Samuelson, and there are other words for self plagiarism, that such as textual recycling, salami slicing, textual reuse, multiple publication, multiple submission, duplicate publication, redundant publication, fragmented publication, self-copying, etc. These are all the synonyms for the self plagiarism, and let us try to restrict ourselves only for 2 or 3 of them. Duplicate publication means contributing the same article in more than one publication with a small or big difference in the with a slight or substantial difference in the titles or some ideas. So this is what self-publication means. And salami slicing means dividing the result of the research into multiple publication and not citing the earlier ones. And redundant publication means using the data partially or fully to produce the multiple papers. And textual recycling means using of the same text on various occasions or various publications. So why do authors or the scholars indulge in such kind of text recycling? In fact, many times people argue that it is not really a sin for text recycling, because there are pressures with which one has to work, so people tend to recycle the things. One of the reasons is pressure to amass publications, because the promotions and other things, other aspirations that we have depends upon not only the quality but also the quantity of research output, and culture of publish or perish forces us to write more and more, and so we indulge in text recycling. And ignorant of potential problems. In fact, many people think that self-plagiarism is not plagiarism at all. This misconception has to go, and you can definitely take the ideas which you have published in earlier articles, but you have to give a due citation to it. So without doing that, just because it is yours, you have the copyright, you cannot reproduce it. In fact, when it comes to copyright, even if you have published, if you publish an article, the copyright belongs to the publisher unless you hold back the copyright for yourself. Many arguments are there against that also. And also to save the time, people will indulge in self recycling. And if you want to reach out to the larger audience, one need to have this have to indulge in recycling. People argue that if I write, I'm writing about something in multidisciplinary area, so I have to publish in the journals in both the fields. Then only it will reach the wider audience. So with that excuse, they are going to indulge in self-recycling. There is nothing wrong, but only thing is whenever you do that, you cite the other publication also. That's what the ethics demand. And also many times you may have to do, particularly for a longitudinal study, you may have to go for analysis of same data, etc. But all said and done, the self-plagiarism should be avoided or should be kept at minimum, because it amounts to copyright infringement, and also it is a misrepresentation of novelty and originality, because the reader would think that your article contain new ideas, but if that person come to know about the fact that you have already published that in some other journal, it will be it is a kind of breach of trust for the person. And also you will be wasting the editorial and reviewing effort. Both the journals have to come out with reviewing and other processes before they accept for the same materials. Both of them will be wasting the time, and also it creates informational noise, because the same thing is there also. So if you want to really come out with the text, recycle the text ethically, then make clear that text is being recycled. You inform the user that this part of the text is being recycled by using appropriate quotations or citations or statement regarding that, and indicate where you have used the text originally and has already been published, and obtain the necessary permission, if any, from the concerned publisher. And these are some of the etiquettes of recycling. I will not go through it. And people normally ask what is the tolerance level for plagiarism, not self-plagiarism, but we should also come out with the tolerance level for plagiarism. This tolerance level, you may be aware of all these things, so I will not go talk about this. And I would draw your attention about the UGC guidelines and the penalties for plagiarism in thesis. So as a researcher, you need to know what are the punishment recommended by the UGCs, and there are instances where these punishments have been given to the defaulters. And with this, let me conclude my session, because it's already 1 hour 10 minutes, so I don't want to extend my talk beyond this. Thank you very much. I hope this passive lecturing mode has given you some ideas about code of ethics and code of conduct, and also it has helped in getting some ideas. So I again take this opportunity to thank all those who are responsible for organizing this event and also inviting me to give this particular lecture. Thank you very much.